My name is Claire and I'm the lead for AfrikaBurn's volunteer portfolio. Today we're going to speak about the burner ethos and why and how it is a participation event. So in the room with us, we have Brad, who is our Director for Culture, Cara, who is our manager with the development portfolio, Lorraine, who is our Director of Development, and Kelly, who is our Development Administrator. We have been selected to speak about the topic as we are well aware that in the outside world, and for those who have never been to AfrikaBurn, there are some ideas roaming and rolling around, which we would like to just debunk and shed some light into as to why AfrikaBurn is not a festival and is more than a festival and is more so a movement. So please, we hope that this podcast can even be a call to inspire you to volunteer and to really get involved so that you can truly taste the magic of what AfrikaBurn is and what it can be. With that, I would like to give the floor over to Lorraine to speak about the how and why AfrikaBurn is a participation event in terms of democracy and duocracy, and that it's not a thing where spectators come to engage in. Lorraine, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Thank you, Claire. I mean, I think to begin with, it's very obvious that AfrikaBurn isn't like a festival. We don't program and commission musicians and artworks. Everything is created from the ground up. And really, what we do is we provide a blank canvas. So what you get is the toilets and the city lights and a few other things. And if we look like we're not providing anything, then we're really doing our job, because it really is for everyone to create. I think one of the main things is that we are deeply participatory year-round. We spend a lot of time working with our community of participants, developing policies, refining our procedures, and making sure that their voice is central to everything that we do and move forward, because it really isn't AfrikaBurn putting on a festival. It is a community that is coming together to build a city for a week, and then it goes back to dust again at the end of that week.
Right, and there's a bit of a culture of if you see that it needs something to be done, then you bring it and you do it. And it's not necessarily to point fingers at the org as event organizers to say, oh, why didn't you provide this and that? It's trying to build the culture from the ground up in a way to give people agency to create this for themselves, this experience for themselves.
Yes, and I think one of the main things is with us as individuals, our lived experience is not the sum total of the lived experience of the community of participants. So if someone sees something or if someone is affected by something, then if they can bring that forward, we can learn and grow.
Thank you, Lars. Thank you for the invitation that if something does happen on the ground that the org should be made aware of, then we do have open ears and we do have systems in place to assist people for the long term. So we still want that feedback.
Absolutely. And on the ground, we've got a whole swathe of volunteer services, such as the sanctuary and support and the rangers, and they really are the experts in their field. So we draw on their knowledge and expertise to assist in building these practices and processes.
So that's good to know, everyone. If you ever do come to the event and something does happen on site that you're needing assistance with, please do go find a ranger or go to Sanctuary or go to the medics and report it in, because there are systems on site ready and available to help you, as well as after the event. If you're not able to bring it up during the event, sometimes things take a bit of time to land and to process. You can always raise it and to send us an email, and then we will get our team on board to assist with that. Very important. All right. Thank you so much, Lorraine. Moving over to Cara. Being a participation event, we have our 11 guiding principles, such as each one teach one, radical self-reliance. How do these play in, and how does this speak to AfrikaBurn not having VIPs or having, per se, a VIP culture or a plug-and-play culture? I know that you stood behind creating the policies for our supplier policy as well, so I just thought that you would be amazing to speak to that.
Yeah, I think in terms of the principles, I think it's important to state that they're not rules. They're not like rules. They're more guidelines, and they are ways in which there's sort of communal agreements in a way that our community centers themselves around and bases their behavior, or not bases their behavior around, but like holds core and embodies as they're moving through the space. So we've got radical self-reliance, and we've got, for example, communal efforts. So they work in tension together. So basically, the principles are not specific rules. They're more agreements and things that we center our ethos around. They also work in tension with each other. So, for example, we've got communal efforts, which is around like pulling your neighbors in and helping each other and manifesting something together. But then that works in tension with radical self-reliance, which is around relying on your inner resources in order to activate in the space. So they can't exist without each other. And as I mentioned, they're not rules. They're more. I had a good giggle when someone was like, they're like the 10 commandments that were handed down from the mountain. But it's not even that. It's that as a community, we are operating in a radical desert, remote area. And in order to do that, without having your traditional authority, we do have authorities on site, but we've got community-based centers like the Rangers and Sanctuary and Support, like we said, who are all community-driven. And that, for me, is like where that ethos comes, because when you're operating within the principles, when you're leaving no trace, when you're embodying those things, it's behaviors that come automatically. And then we've got the 10 principles came from Burning Man, and we actually came up with our own principle as we developed as an AfrikaBurn culture. And that's when Each One Teach One came out, which is about when you are holding knowledge, share it. Like if you have an opportunity to share any knowledge that you have, and this is kind of what this podcast is doing, and I'm so grateful for this because it's really lovely to be able to just sit here and share where we're at, and something that's a little bit more than just the perceived bucket list AfrikaBurn party event that so many people think that AfrikaBurn is. Like it's a culture, it's an ethos, and it travels through. And then just related into what Laz was saying around sort of accessibility and what you were saying as well, we reworded the radical inclusion principles. So radical inclusion, as it came from Burning Man, was more about welcoming the stranger, where we realized in a South African context and in an African context, it's actually a lot more about enablement. It's about removing those barriers actively, so that if somebody wants to participate and they're feeling, oh, they're never going to be able to afford the ticket price or whatever, get in touch. We have got mechanisms in place to enable you to bring your magic, no matter who you are. I think.
Thank you,
Did I answer your question?
Said so well, so well. And also, please, if I can just add, please get in touch ahead of time. If you can please get in touch, 3 to 6 months before the event itself, preferably 6, and then we can enroll you into these systems. A lot of the time I get asked, 2 weeks prior to the event or the month prior, and unfortunately those applications are then closed.
Yeah. So September is usually a good time. So spring, if you think about it, if you've got like springtime, September is usually a good time to start thinking about things like that, because we need to roll things out and get in touch and get to know you and go through all of the systems before we get activated. So,
Thank you. I think also in terms of our guiding principles, participation is a big one, which is an underlying force of volunteering. So at AfrikaBurn, there is the word spectatorship that gets thrown around quite a lot. And spectatorship, in essence, is when we aren't volunteering or contributing in an artwork and we kind of just come for that bucket list. So please, if you don't feel confident to initiate your own project, then please come and volunteer and just be a part of it, because that's a great way to get you in and to get you involved. So going back to our origins, we're going to pass it over to Brad. I would love it if you can please speak to, when it started, what inspired it, what was the journey. And I think next year is even our 20-year anniversary. And given to that, AfricaBurn, we wouldn't really be able to be where we are today if it wasn't for people volunteering and contributing in the way that they have. I don't think it would have been possible.
I love that connection you made to volunteering, Claire, because something that truly characterized the origination and the seed and the sprouting of AfrikaBurn in Cape Town in South Africa was very much a spirit of getting involved, of contributing, of climbing in, of just doing it. Oh, cool, this is happening. Wow, I've always wanted to make something. Brilliant, there's an open invitation here, climb in. And so that energy was very clear, and there was no alternative to it. You know, it was such a new and emerging gift in itself that this momentum of energy was able to attract people. I think it was 1,500 people in the first event, which was at a different time of year, which was punishingly hot, absolutely crazy hot. And eventually one of the local farmers said, you know, there's another time of year that's scarily good weather, and got the time of year changed, which made a huge difference to not making it even harder than it can be. So there was this sense of a spark coming from Burning Man that was very much both an embodied thing. Paul Jorgensen, who came very much with a, okay, we're doing it now kind of spirit, which lit up a bunch of people who were already thinking that way, several of whom had been to Burning Man, had also got excited about like, wow, this is a very interesting phenomenon, this culture, this community, and there's something about it that was very compelling. And little did we know that around about the same time was when the founders of Burning Man were first starting to specifically articulate those principles. So we were very hot off the press locally in terms of uptake and going like, wow, okay, cool, these are tenets, these are chords in the music that makes this cool experience happen. So it was very much a rolling experiment as everybody got going. And over time, as an experiment matures, it needs to keep on being reinvigorated. It needs to keep on being questioned. Because once it becomes familiar and there's a perception around something, you actually have to think a little more. You have to dig a little deeper. And I think that's the stage of maturity or growth that AfrikaBurn is currently at, is that it's known widely and visibly and well, but possibly superficially out in the larger world, because there's this glamorous imagery and this exciting appearance to it all. Whereas in the early day, there was very little to nothing to know how the local burner spirit would embody. So it was all like, okay, come and make it, come and do it. That's the invitation that is still there.
Thank you so much for that, Brad. And then even so, if I can then pass the mic over to Lars to speak about how the transition has happened to us moving over to Quagga Fontaine, the ethos behind that, the inspiration behind that. What is the intention with that? Where are we at now?
So the desire to have agency over a parcel of land to be able to kind of live out our principles has been a long desire. And initially, members of the organization went and looked at various parcels in the Tankwa. There was discussions about whether we should purchase land. There was a lot of pushback around purchasing land because it's such a contentious issue in South Africa. And then we stumbled upon an opportunity where a deep participant was in a position to purchase a significant parcel of land with the opportunity to give the usage to AfrikaBurn. And this came about in 2019, so it was just before the pandemic. So what ended up happening was we needed to move everything from the location in Stonehenge across to Quagga during lockdown restrictions, during a time when we were not able to have events or put on anything that constituted a gathering. So it was a very, very challenging time because we were navigating all of these new regulations, shifting and changing circumstances, but it also allowed us time to start listening to the land and working out how we were going to be on the land. And it allows us to do things like cite artworks that are semi-permanent, and they won't be interrupted by other activities that are happening that are not within our ethos. And it allows us to think about doing different things outside of an event period. So when we were on Stonehenge, it was very much, this is the period of time we are there, we have our storage, we arrive in March, we set up, we break down, and that's it. Whereas now we have the opportunity to do things like a spring hosting season, where we can invite crews and artists to come up and explore the site and get a feel for it and be inspired by the land, and that in turn informs their works and informs the activities that we do.
And then, Lars, I would also love it if you could speak a bit into Landcom and the intentions with land custodianship and eco-restoration involved, as well as our outreach programs that stretch and branch into the wider communities.
Certainly, Landcom is an internal committee that is constituted of many different people within the organisation. So it's people in operations, it's people in the membership and the board as well. And we basically oversee the various process development activities, infrastructure works, because land is such a huge project. It encompasses heritage, it encompasses environmental regulation, what our community would like to do, many operational issues, our infrastructure, our circular economy. So there's a hell of a lot to actually tackle within Landcom. Outreach has been in operation since 2012, and basically there's a small portion of the ticket money that goes towards the funding of outreach activities. Our primary focus is around supporting the school at Elands Flay, and then also supporting the learners that leave Elands Flay and go to Calvinia High School when they finish their primary schooling. And Calvinia is about 100 plus kilometres away from Elands Flay School, and it's mostly up a dirt road. So that is the nearest school. So we support with the school fees and the hosteling fees for the few learners that go. We also support the donkeys and the horses. There's still many people that use donkeys to get around, so we support them in their Carricky Mensa. And we work with a local organisation in Cape Town, Cart Horse Protection Association. And we take them up and host them, and they assist with all the kind of vet checks, the farriering, the fixing of the carts, and also the harnessing. And then we also support the various community days. Since AfrikaBurn's been around, there's been a few new businesses opening in the area, and they often host events and community days. So we will support with, say, our Department of Public Works going to set up stretch tents. We'll do some activities to generally support the well-being of the community.
Thank you so much for explaining that to us. And it's so exciting to hear that the movement and the ethos of AfrikaBurn actually extends beyond the event itself, and also how a lot of the money that people contribute towards the event actually then extends out into our wider community and network throughout the course of the year. For those who would like to get involved and who are coming to the Burn, you can also apply for a Spark grant later in the year that can also assist you in a community drive that you've been inspired and been wanting to contribute into your local community. Kelly, I'd love it if you could please speak to us a bit about the Spark grants.
So the three of us are in the development portfolio, and much like volunteers, I really do feel that development is a bridge between the desert and the default world. we have a lot of creative projects that run all year round that I really hope people go onto the website and check out projects like Rise and Hammer School and Spark Grants. So post-event, every participant that is at the burn. So this year our theme is Through the Prism. So if you have come to Through the Prism, after the event you have the opportunity to become eligible for a Spark Grant. So Spark is an activation, so of one of the 11 principles, and you can submit your project and hopefully get a 10,000 Rand Spark Grant to help activate that in the default world.
And when do those applications open?
Adjudication is May and June, so I think you should be chosen by July, August, around that time. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that, Kelly. And then Cara, I would love it if you can please speak towards Hammer School, as I know that is a project that you're behind.
So Hammer School was dreamed up quite some time ago by one of the DPW leads, who is now the operations manager here at AfrikaBurn. And it was a great idea that she came up with, which was pretty much, we've got all of these incredible women and non-binary folks that are in the Department of Public Works, that are leading their own departments, that are sort of breaking the boundaries of what is expected of a woman being able to do. So what would happen if, which is one of my favorite things about AfrikaBurn, is that it's very much a space of what would happen if we did this. So what would happen if we created a course that is aimed at women and non-binary folks and doing a skill share, but for carpentry and metal and electrics and things that are traditionally male-led fields. So if we were to take the principle of each one teach one and take these incredibly skilled people that have, a lot of them had learned their skills in DPW, in the Department of Public Works, and bring it into the default world to ripple out. So Hammer School it's in its third iteration at the moment. The first iteration was standalone workshops. So each workshop was its own course. So there was basic carpentry, there was basic electrics. I think I stand corrected, but I think that there was a sort of a plumbing and a basic household maintenance course. But the most important part about it is around unlocking creativity and unlocking design thinking. Mostly people that are from marginalized spaces and that are historically, economically excluded. The second iteration of Hammer School is when I started getting involved, and that was a call out to people in the Western Cape, because we managed to get some funding from the City of Cape Town, or the Western Cape government, to be able to put this on. And that was the first time that it took the form of a course with a curriculum. And we created some artworks for Streetopia, which is at the end of November. It's another AfrikaBurn activation in the default world. And that was just each person created their own artwork. And now it's in its third iteration, and it's a longer one. We invited everybody that had been part of the first two iterations of Hammer School to return and do an intermediate course. So now, in addition to creative thinking and design thinking, people are learning structural engineering. They're building gigantic structures, which are going to be installed in the desert. We're doing a field trip up over Easter weekend, because not a lot of the people that are part of Hammer School are actually interested or want to go to the AfrikaBurn events. Their involvement is in such a space that they are learning, they're gaining the confidence to activate skills in their worlds and in their homes. So I'd say about half of the people that are in Hammer School are not going to be at the AfrikaBurn event at all. So we've decided to have a field trip up so that everybody can see the Tankwa Desert and be involved there and have it just be a completely different space to activate. The fun part about Hammer School actually is that quite a few of the people that joined the course who had never heard of AfrikaBurn before are actually now part of the Department of Public Works. So through that, there's just so many different ways in which people have connected into the community, whether that be through the event, through DPW, through volunteers, or just taking things back into their spaces and into the default world with what they've learned.
Thank you so much for that, Cara. And I can tell there's just so much more to get into. So please do get in touch with either Kelly or Cara around these amazing projects that happen outside of event time that can only bring our community deeper in towards the event itself. For instance, I can say that some of our Hammer School students have been some of our most key contributors at our volunteer days because they come ready to rumble. They know the ethos, their lives have been influenced and changed by the program itself. And it's just been amazing that they become these custodians who actually influence in the space and help with that. And I'm so excited to then lead the next question towards Brad to explain and speak to how AfrikaBurn therefore isn't just a week-long event in the desert. There's a whole culture assigned to it that makes even something like mooping, picking up matter out of place, sacred, or assisting and volunteering in whatever way we can, or being a part of the artworks or the mutants or whatever it may be. So culturally, Brad, what is AfrikaBurn in the deserts?
One of the leaders of one of the other burns in the world expressed a thought so succinctly that I think is worth sharing. The community is bigger than the event. And that's such a simple, beautiful truth. And I would extend that further, that likewise, the culture is bigger than the event. And though the event is time-bound and finite, it starts on a certain date and ends on another date, the culture and the community are not. They continue. What the event environment of Tankwa Town provides is a gathering opportunity, a lens, a portal through which all the energies that are existent in the community, all those influences that are flowing and emerging in the culture, find an acceleration point and a gathering point and a real opportunity to go like, woohoo, yeah, here we are, okay, cool, it's getting together. What is so key about that is the depth of participation and engagement. And really, I feel like so many of the principles center around that invitation. These are ways of inviting your depth of engagement. And the price of not engaging is a very superficial experience of AfrikaBurn. You may come away with some photos for your Instagram, but if you actually haven't got involved and volunteered or lent a hand with your campmates or thought of something or got inspired or dared to be silly or dared to express something sincere in front of other people and found yourself accepted and engaged by it, or just been part of the schlep of doing something hard and physical and in person and connecting with other people, that you'll come away with only pictures if you haven't grabbed that opportunity. Because really that's the meaningful moment to grab hold of, is who am I when I have a free invitation to be my fullest self or another version of myself. If you want to take a holiday from your usual self, try on another self. But radical self-expression invites that sense of like, what do I really want to bring forward? And when I recognize something simpatico in other people, how do we connect and collaborate and find ourselves capable of experimenting with both ways of being and with forms of creating that our default world and our default lives make more challenging? So really that cultural opportunity is one of openness. And if the organization does anything, it's to be a light touch framework to keep this fabulous free-form bowl of fruit exploding and doing its thing and cascading into whatever shape its community members wish to find expression through. Did that at all answer your question.
It did. It did. Thank you. And I also love the notion of that the thing that is transformation is getting your foot in and participating and being involved. And that's how the shift happens.
Yep.
Otherwise, you're just left with a bunch of photos, and it is like any other event or festival, which isn't the case in our case. So please, I would really like to send a call to action out there for anyone and everyone who does intend on coming to the event. Please do sign up for a volunteer shift, whether it's pre-event or during the event itself. We'll also need hands after the event. If you're with a theme camp, if you are an artist doing a build, if you are performing in some way, if you are contributing in whatever way, please also consider that everything that goes towards the event is volunteer-based. There are people who are gifting their time towards this happening. So please, even if it's just a 3-hour shift, or if you want to get involved in a full day or really take on a role as crew, get in touch with volunteers at AfrikaBurn.com, because we are the people who make this thing happen, and that is what makes this a movement. I'd just like to say thank you so much to our panel and our speakers today. You've contributed so much, and I hope that all of this really does get the message out there.